Hi everyone, Tiffany here from Tiffany Cosplay, and on this Tips videos, we're going to be going over how I made my Atlantic Mercy skirt from Overwatch. The first step for making the skirt was to get reference images from the game Overwatch. After that, I made in Adobe Illustrator templates for Mercy's back skirt, side, and front skirt. And both of these blueprints can be found on my website, see the link below. For the back and the side parts of the skirt, I used a black leather cowhide, and then laid my template on top, and cut out using an Excel blade. You can see here the two side pieces of the skirt and the back. I then pinned each piece together and sewed with a leather sewing needle. For all of the detail parts on the skirt, I used a veg tan leather cowhide, and this time I laid the entire template on top, and cut out with scissors. Next, I cut out the trimming of the template and traced it with a Sharpie onto the leather, and then cut out with an Excel blade. Remember to always have a sharp blade so you don't have frays on the edge. You can see here all the pieces laid on top. For attaching the detail pieces, I first applied leather weld glue to the back of all of the details, and slowly laid down on top of the leather and wiped all of the extra glue as I went. I'd like to note that this is just a temporary bond, so that way we can sew it later without it moving. Once all the glue was dry, I then trimmed all of the edges with scissors, and then stitched all of the leather pieces down with black thread. To round the edges so they weren't so sharp, I used a leather burnishing tool. I repeated the same process for all of the front parts of the skirt. Now for painting. Typically, I would use a specific leather dye, but I wanted to try something new, so I tried airbrush painting, and it worked wonderful. I first started with airbrush painting the front skirt, star, and moon white, followed by the other detail pieces on the top of the front of the skirt, various shades of blue. For the main part of the front skirt, I did a gradient from the top, a dark blue, to the bottom, a very light turquoise. And for the moon at the bottom of the front skirt, I did a base coat of turquoise with a light white on the inside to give a more glowing look. Don't forget to paint the backside as well. Once all of the airbrush paint was dry, I then applied leather weld glue to the back of the moon and the star for the front skirt and attached. And once again sewed all of the pieces down, this time with white thread. And for the top detail pieces of the front skirt, I glued them down with leather weld glue and then sewed the entire front skirt to the top half of the shirt for Atlantic Mercy. To give the floating illusion of the moon at the bottom of the front skirt, I used plexiglass, which is the same material that I used for the wing extensions for the cosplay. I cut the plexiglass into a somewhat circle shape and then attached it to the back of the skirt pieces using Sobo glue. For the two galaxy tail pieces of the skirt, I did a gradient from a turquoise at the top to a dark plum color at the bottom with airbrush paint. And for the star effect, I splattered it with a dry paintbrush with white airbrush paint. To give a line detail on the leather pieces, rather than using paint, I used a Pro Stitching Groover blade. For the back and side parts of the skirt, I airbrush painted a few coats of purple, starting from the top with a light purple to the bottom using a plum color. For all of the detail pieces on the back and side skirts, I first laid them out on masking tape so they would hold them in place, making sure that all of the pieces were in a line and close enough so I could airbrush everything at once. I then airbrush painted a gradient color from a violet to a plum to a dark purple to more of a turquoise color at the bottom. Once all the pieces were dry, I then attached the two galaxy tail pieces by sewing them to the back and the side skirts. Next, I once again applied leather weld glue to the back of all of the detail pieces and attached to the skirt. I repeated the same process until every single detail piece was attached to the skirt, and then sewed all of the detail pieces down with a violet colored thread. For attaching the back and side skirts to the cosplay, I did one black strap with a snap on it that would hide underneath the shirt of the cosplay. And that is how I made my Atlantic Mercy skirt from Overwatch. Thanks for watching this tips video on how I made my Atlantic Mercy skirt from Overwatch. And if you liked the video, remember to subscribe. Much love!